G'day everyone. Proud to say Bar Karate is brought to you by Radix Nutrition, makers of the most technically comprehensive nutrition products that have ever existed. Unlock your potential with Radix. This week we're also sponsored by Vycobi. Vycobi, manufacturers of performance gear that helps you sail at your peak. G'day listeners, welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some really cool sailors, but of course I have to share the mic with two complete idiots. First off, Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
BP.
G'day world. Well, I've completely lost track of time, haven't I? I don't know what time of day it is. Apparently I'm late to the meeting. So anyway, here we are. Made it. Thanks guys for giving me the heads up.
That's good
I
to see you.
organised it and couldn't even be at my own meeting.
Well done. Well, let's bring in the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
Kind of the story of your life, BP. Okay? All
Absolutely,
these intentions, and then
Yeah.
it just, everything falls over.
Well, it sounds like Pete Bar Karate, really, doesn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. So coming to you live, back from in Adelaide for this one. Quick little stint home in between European trips. So nice to be back on the home deck, gents.
Was
Nice to be
definitely a
back.
busy weekend last weekend, covering the big event. We were there full time, making sure everything was going well.
Correct. And we'll be chatting about the cup and all that sort of stuff. Not only throughout the interview, but obviously during hot topic, the cup, hot topic.
Oh yeah.
So
Good discussion.
let's keep our powder dry a little bit on that one.
Well,
But
we're
all
in
good.
cup theme, right? We're in
Yep.
cup theme.
Cup time. How about you, Jordan? All good, mate? Been
Oh,
out
yeah,
paddling this week or anything? Catching
Yeah.
the world's greatest wave?
I got the second greatest actually this week. I've been out about 5 times this week, getting plenty of paddling in. I love it.
Oh, excellent.
It's good.
Hey, you're back. You're back. Just
I noticed you've got your bed in your van.
For the listeners, I've got a white van. I've taken the free lolly sign off the side, just so, and then I've set it up with a camping sort of setup. So I'll go to a remote office one day a week, and then sleep in my van, and then go for a sail the next morning. So, but yeah, no,
From a
can
free
go away
lolly
and
to
do-
an ice cream truck.
what end do you put your head?
Yeah.
Like, do you leave the back door open and let your head hang out, or
have my feet hanging
push
out.
the front?
It was a bit like that. Anyway, come on, let's rambling on.
Okay. Now,
cool.
we'll bring in our guest because one thing about our show is that whether it's on purpose or not, we're very unprofessional. We do like to run it loose and wide, and it is very much the Australian way. It look like you're a complete fool on the surface, but below working like a crazy person and doing all the hard yards. But our guest tonight is the complete opposite. She's completely perfect, perfect at execution, does everything brilliantly from what I can work out, but is also quite, as a result, is an achiever of some note. So, an Olympic sailor in the 49er FX, a college career that is impressive. Like, it's, for me, it's very grown up. I'm a bit scared about talking to our guest.
Impressive for us.
Yeah, very scared about talking to our guest, and is now continues our love affair of guests from the American Magic team. An engineer who's responsible for the mechatronics.
I love that word. I love it. I
Mechatronic-
love it.
I know.
Mechatronics.
And
I want to be a mechatronic.
Bit too loose for that, mate.
yeah,
Way too loose.
Oh, okay. Righto.
but
Move on.
certainly a person that sailing's been a huge part of their life and has now turned into a career and doing some amazing stuff. And we thought you guys would find this very, very interesting and a very interesting person. And I'd like to welcome to the show Helena Scutt.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Helena, we're very excited to have you because we know you're still in your honeymoon period. Congratulations on just getting married. We're very excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah, no official honeymoon yet due to SailGP and America's Cup and stuff. So that'll maybe wait a year, but
Yeah.
it's good.
Oh, you'll be waiting way more than that. Knowing different people in the game that have in your situation who just got married prior to or during a cup campaign or something.
2007.
Still haven't had a honeymoon. So should get a good one in about 2033 or something.
Yeah, the honeymoon will be around the time of next year's Moth Worlds. So yeah, good point. It's
straight to the Moth Worlds for you then.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can share with you my honeymoon was the Cape Town stopover in the Volvo in 2007, 2008.
That's awesome.
So let's go straight to the main talking point for us that's freaking us out is this term mechatronics. Like, we have no idea what that means. In my mind, like, you are creating the robots that are going to take over the world and destroy us all.
I've got Transformers as well.
Yeah.
Transformers.
So based on that, before you do speak, Helena, we've had a theory for quite some time now about SailGP.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure who you're working for there. I'm just saying we're not going to see any human beings taking part in this event in the future. It's purely now. You can either confirm or deny that particular statement, but you're really there working for Russell to, take over the world, aren't you?
Yeah, sailors, they just complain, and you got to fly them around the world. So why not
feed
just have the boats sail themselves?
And they
yeah,
whinge
exactly.
and complain the whole time. You're right, 100%.
Wow.
Princesses, we call them. Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, so you want to know what mechatronics is, basically?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. So mechatronics is a combination of the words mechanical and electronics. You just stick those words together, and that pretty much describes what it's all about. But then at the intersection of those two things, there's a lot of programming as well. So it's like mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and software engineering kind of combined. I wouldn't call myself an expert in any of those. Well, my degrees are mechanical engineering and my concentration was mechatronics. So what do we do with all of this? It's basically like including robotics, and you combine sensors with wanting to make things that move, and then all of the software that happens in between. So I actually didn't know what mechatronics was either until I was looking at options for my concentration for my master's. And I told my friend that I wanted more hands-on work. I wanted more programming, and I wanted to learn more about electronics. And she said, you should do this concentration. The professor's been teaching it for like 25 years, and it's a really good course. And so that's how I ended up doing it. And that was right after, like a month after finishing the Rio Olympics. And so it was like this big head spin from like all the hype around the Olympics to like, oh, wow, I got to finish this lab that's due tomorrow morning and it's 2 a.m. Like, let's go.
Wow.
That's the thing that blows my mind is you've got all this headspace to do all this stuff while you're doing all this other stuff. It's pretty insane.
Oh, yeah. Your life and achieving all the things you've achieved must have been ridiculously hard. Like to work that hard must be incredible. And I don't know how you do it. How do you do it?
Thanks. I am very fortunate. I've had a lot of privilege with my education and my family and where I grew up. Like, I'm definitely extremely fortunate. And then there's I think, other parts of it are mindset. I'm the first to admit I'm extremely driven. And I was talking to my dad about this a little while ago, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said, more than anyone I know, you see yourself as your biggest project. And I thought that was nice. That was a really cool compliment. And yeah. I
never thought about that.
Yeah, one of my biggest fears is being bored. So I just try to keep myself interested in things, and that usually involves doing new things.
Right. Wow.
So kind of maybe just stepping back a little bit, obviously during college, a lot of sailing, as Jordan mentioned as well, like the career path you took, is it because sailing, or is the sailing because of the career path? Where's that crossover?
That's a really good question.
Well done, boss.
Well done, Bossy.
I'm done. See you later.
Sorry,
So-
sorry, Helena.
Something I love, no worries. Something I'd love for young listeners to get out of this, or maybe parents who want their kids to sail, is that I knew how to sail when I was young. Credit to my dad, who's a sailor in his free time. But I didn't actually start racing. I didn't do a regatta until I was 15. And I want the kids that feel pressure to do the best in opties and things like that to hear that. Like, you don't need to be this young superstar to have a really amazing sailing journey, regardless of accomplishments, just to enjoy it. And so, yeah, I played a lot of soccer, burned out of that, started sailing. And my dad was like, he told me later, he's like, yeah, every time you scored another goal, I was like, damn it, another year of soccer. He always wanted me to sail.
Love it.
So that's my first thing, is I think I actually really benefited from starting sailing, or at least racing, relatively late, because it kept it all interesting, and it took some of the pressure off. Yeah.
Yep.
My goal was just to improve as fast as possible, and it wasn't about like proving myself or, something like that. And then as far as the engineering and career side, my parents, I never really felt like they pushed me, but I always knew that they really wanted me to get a good education. And I enjoyed school, honestly. And so I knew I wanted to sail in college once sailing started ramping up quickly. And college sailing in the US is a really big deal. So
absolutely.
I went and did that. And before college, I'd been sailing the 29er, and I was one of the only girl crews in the fleet in the US. And, there weren't that many in the world either, to be honest. And when I got to college, and I hadn't done FJs and 420s, which are what they sail in college. So I was pretty green in college, and I was a crew as well, which honestly, I think crews in the US and college sailing don't get nearly enough credit. It's like super skipper centric.
Right.
Oh, here we go. Jordan and
So-
Helena, we might as well go for a
Jordan
little
never gets
cup of
any-
coffee. We might as well go for a cup of coffee, BP.
Yeah, Jordan never
'cause
gets
it's-
any credit for his 505 Australian Championship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Multiple. Oh, sorry,
So-
multiple. See, I don't even give him credit for it, but no.
Maybe it's a combo of like starting sailing a little bit later and not really knowing what my path was going to be, that I just always tried to do the best I could in my education path. And
Huge point. Sorry, just want to hold you there. You just said, you didn't know where your pathway was going to go. When did you actually realize, before we go down the career path, when did you actually realize that, sailing was it? You said this is what I want to do? Because you said you didn't do a regatta until you're 15. I mean, most kids by the time they're 15, if they've got the talent, or if they're in an Olympic mindset, they've won a couple of regattas.
Oh, yeah, but they've burnt out by now, BP. They're on the scrap heap. Get rid of them.
I know.
And there's no mechatronics in soccer.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
So you start your first regatta at 15. You're 17, 18. You thought, this is it. I'm gonna go for the Olympics.
Not quite. I wanted to go to the Olympics for soccer, and the US women's national team had recently won the Women's World Cup a couple times when I was growing up. So they were my idols. And there weren't that many women in professional sailing either. I didn't have, or at least I wasn't aware of many role models that were women in pro sailing. But I just loved it. And I had really awesome coaches. Jen and Ben Glass are a couple of them who they actually were in Australia, living there for a couple of years recently.
Oh,
and
classic.
I had, I had a really fun skipper, Katie. And so we were pretty quickly named up to the US Sailing's Olympic development team. This was in my last year of high school. And then it was my sophomore year of college. So that's your second year out of 4. And they announced that there would be the 49er FX women's skiff in the Olympics for 2016. And so that was really pivotal. And having done so much 29er sailing, I was like, all right, maybe I can do this.
That's so cool.
And funnily enough, we were up against Anna Tunnicliffe and Molly Vandemore, and Molly Vandemore was my college coach's wife. And so it's literally up against my college coach's wife trying to qualify on the Olympic campaign path.
Right.
And when Anna announced that she was retiring, this was sometime in 2014, it was like, all right, like, maybe this door is opening up. Maybe we should go for this. And I was dating my now husband, Hans, at the time. We've been dating for about a year. And the US sailing team coaches, Luther and Charlie, really wanted me and Paris to try sailing together. And I was hesitant because Paris is only 17 years old. And so she was still in high school. And, I was still in college, but they wanted us to do it. And we did a training camp and we laughed a lot. We had so much fun. And so we just decided to keep going. So that's how I got hooked on the Olympic scene.
Yeah.
What a cool story.
So you've gone from a FX, 29er. Then you go to college into the Club 420s, blah, 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 for some real fun yachting. And then it's 49er FX. So you had a bit of a down period, let's face it.
It was it was like 1 year in my senior year, I skipped the college sailing spring break, which is a lot of sailing and a lot of drinking as well. But I had to miss that to do the Palma World Cup.
Oh, bummer.
And there were, compromises, but it was like choosing between two great options usually.
I love it.
But all the while this is going on, you've obviously got sorry to change the course of that subject to the conversation, but all the while you've got this thought of a career as well going on, which is kind of hard for us to do, but you've done that. And so you've got the two things going sort of at once.
Yeah, I was very much doing my studies, which were quite demanding. And then also college sailing and starting this Olympic campaign. Yeah, it was a lot.
Wow.
I thought all college athletes did a communications degree, but you've gone and done a proper engineering serious degree at Stanford. Is that a good school, Stanford?
It's all right.
It's in lots of movies.
Yeah. Do you have to row?
Harvard.
Do you have to row backwards
Cambridge.
every morning?
Yeah.
There's a story that I may or may not share.
But now you've got us. You can either tell us or not, because we're going to want to know the whole
stamp that one.
Yeah.
Good story.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, sometimes I look back on that period and I think, wow, I don't even know how I did that. But a couple things. One is that I had really fun teammates, and it's so much easier to be doing what you're doing, studying, sailing, traveling, when you're with other people that are doing the same thing. You just have so much more energy when you're doing that alongside people. So that's one thing. And then also at Stanford specifically, Stanford produces an insane amount of Olympic athletes. And so while my sailing teammates were really inspirational to me, also equally, I was surrounded by these, basketball players, soccer players, football players, and then all these other sports that don't get as much attention. We share a boathouse with the rowers. There's like field hockey, and that's less common in the US. So just all sorts of sports. And I hung out with a lot of other athletes, and that was really probably quite formative for me to see how they operated. And it just kind of cemented that I wanted to go to the Olympics.
Wow.
I was going to say the honor board in Stanford. Holy shit. You'd need a whole building for the honor boards for all the achievements. And so specifically around sporting, that must have been pretty unreal. You must have been surrounded by some phenomenal athletes as well during that period.
Yeah, absolutely. Like other people in my class were at the Rio Olympics, so it was really cool to be cheering them on and at the same time. And just phenomenal athletes.
People in my
the
class
other thing
were at the Rio Olympics, Bossy. Other people in my class. We're doing something wrong.
The other thing that's oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Well, I can go back to the good story because
Yeah, no, we definitely know a good story. Yeah.
You wanted to tell it the whole time. You've been dangling us for the whole time.
We also had a lot of support. We had workouts every Tuesday and Thursday morning as a sailing team with a trainer that was dedicated to our team. And one time we had been partying the night before, and it was Halloween time. And yeah, here we go. I'm gonna totally regret this, but I was wearing a flight attendant costume, and I was biking back home, and I hit a curb that is like, it's curved, but it's like very aggressive, and I did not go off the right part of that curb, and I go flying through the air, and I like rip my jacket, and I scrape myself up. And then the next morning, our trainer asks like, Helena, what happened? And a guy on our team's like, she hit a curb. And then I like turned bright red. And then he pauses for dramatic effect. He's like, in a flight attendant costume. And I just go even more red. So yeah, that's my college sailing, Stanford athletics story.
I was just
we
going
could
to
make
say,
a movie out of that, I reckon.
yeah, I wouldn't feel too bad because I suspect if you went to the emergency department of any hospital on Halloween, it would be nothing but young ladies in tiny costumes.
People dressed up in all sorts of stuff who are in all sorts of strife. Well, that you'll be pleased to know, Helena. Our co-host here, Jordan Spencer, he's actually banned from any sort of university activity. So you didn't do as bad as him. When you combine some sort of academia and some sort of sporting activity, that's when our friend gets banned. So
only for life.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, this one anyway.
Oh dear. No, so I mean the sort of playing on that a little bit. What Bicey said, for me, like going to university, what we call uni, not college. There was a certain element of you had to do everything to the fullest, and some of the social elements were very, very, very critical, and we went really hard. So university sport was very much about having a lot of fun and extreme behaviours, but to put that and your degree together, you get this one shot at life of doing it. But to go to a school like Stanford where, you're doing such a heavy degree, engineering is tough everywhere in the world, but to actually go and do engineering and do an Olympic campaign together at the same time, that is quite disciplined, very disciplined. And it's very hard to imagine anyone doing it. I've since my wife is probably the most disciplined human being ever, so it's that yin and yang approach. And so I've seen how hard people can work and how focused people can be. And so I do understand that there are really mature and grown up people out there that can achieve lots. And did you ever look at the idiots? No names. I guess, did you have idiots at university? Like, did you have these people that were being idiots, or did you just look at them and just stay away?
Or
I don't really know how
were
to
you
answer that.
out with them at Halloween in your
Or is Hans one of those people?
No, unfortunately. Well, yeah, Hans is not one of those people. Definitely not. I think I just always wanted to experience more and learn more, and so I was just fully on my own track and not too worried about what other people were doing. And yeah, I mean, deliberately surrounding myself with people that I thought would push me and help me grow. But yeah,
so grown up.
Everyone can teach you something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
very, very, very grown up answer. Yeah. Right.
So you were born in the UK, moved to the US at the age of 2. Do you sort of ever think, am I from the US or am I from the UK? Or when you were doing your Olympic campaign, did you think, I've got a choice? Was that ever anything like that go on, or you're 100% red, white, and blue US?
I mean, technically, I do have a choice.
And technically, the flags have the same colours.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Very clever. So Yeah, actually, when I was 16 and I wanted to do the U.S. Youth Championships, they made me write a letter saying that I was going to become a U.S. citizen as soon as possible, in order to sail at this regatta.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I did that. So when I turned 18, I got my U.S. citizenship, and that was the first in my family to do that. And then a bit of a cool side is that my parents got theirs a few years later, and my dad's citizenship ceremony, where he takes the oath, was the night before I left to go compete in Rio. And something that they do is they have people stand up, and when they say the different countries that people have come from, they all stand up. So they're listing all these countries, and people are very emotional. And it really reminded me how much a white person from a very rich, British Empire country, we just kind of take it for granted. I never had any, issues with my green card or anything. And here are these people that are so grateful to have this new life in the United States. And so to have that experience before I got on the plane to go represent my country, it brought a whole new level of meaning to it. That was really cool.
I reckon one of the qualifying questions would be, is it pronounced regatta or regatta? And if you say regatta, you're in.
Here we go.
No problem.
Or even better, is it buoy or buoy?
Or aluminium or aluminum.
Aluminum. Actually, that's the one, Helena. What do you say? Which one do you say?
Well,
I say aluminum, but my dad would say aluminium. And yeah, you should hear my parents, because you would have no idea that I was American. Like, people don't think we're related until I have to tell them, because they sound so British.
I just love it, because one of the things I actually quite enjoy is the etymology of words, where they come from and how they evolve, and so there's a lot of words in the American English language that give me a good chuckle, and boy and buoy is just one of them, and aluminium and aluminum, that conversation, we could argue for years on that.
Hey, Jordan,
yeah,
she went to Stanford.
Yeah.
So not telling new stuff here.
Yeah, and the other thing, boss, that I love about Helena, before we get into the serious stuff, is, got a passion for the soccer, right? Which you mentioned as a youngster. Obviously, where you lived, I think you're sort of the northwest coast. I think BP's Foods just turned up. You've got the snowboarding and the skiing and all that sort of stuff, but you've also got the ukulele in the repertoire. Do you crack that out at the campfires when you're having your s'mores?
Wow, you must have gone really deep on your research.
I'm all over it.
My ex-boyfriend made that for me. It had a carbon head plate, or whatever you want to call it. He made it, and he put carbon on the head plate. I never learned to play it. So, sorry to let you down, but I guess became more interesting.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Impressive research, though. Really impressive.
I had visions of you and BP playing some music together. That was where we were going
doing the outro.
Yeah.
In saying that, you're probably not the only person who's had a ukulele that just sits in the corner and does nothing. I think everyone has grand ideas of picking up the ukulele and playing a few songs.
Exactly. That was my Jack Johnson phase. I still love his music, but yeah,
I love a bit of Jack Johnson.
For me.
Yeah, we're mates, actually, Jack and I. We've been mates for a good few years.
Yeah.
I've used that at parties before. It's gone well. It's been a good way to start a conversation. Oh, yeah, no, I've known Jack for a few years. Yeah. Okay, let's get into the 49er sailing. Oh, the Moth stuff as well, because this is where it shows you what a grown up you are. Is that obviously you became you still sail the Moth. You're into the Moth, and you've been the vice president and the president of US Moth Sailing. So you're quite grown up, and then you went, of course, to the infamous Worlds we just had only 9 months ago. Where was it? Well, probably a little bit different than that, but where you just
where the weather's never normally like that.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's where I'm getting. So let's talk about moths and foiling and being a grown up and actually putting your heart and soul into the actual class as well as just going out for yourself. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I definitely decided that the best thing I could do for the Moth class was to keep kicking ass and keep getting better. So that's my new path. And I'll keep doing that. And the Moth class leadership positions will be there when I'm ready. But for now, I decided I'm going to focus on the Moth sailing.
Yep.
And my job. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. Are you incorporating any of the mechatronics onto your boat? So you.
I'm not, but I do have a couple friends that for fun, they put some sensors on, and instead of the wand, they were controlling it electronically and then actuating the wand with a little motor. So I have friends that have played around with that. I haven't gone down that road or anything, but
I'm interested.
But yeah, to me, the Moth has been such an awesome journey. I started sailing the Moth. I got mine in 2018. But I was still campaigning in the NACRA. I broke my hand, all this stuff.
Oh.
So I didn't really start sailing it until kind of summer 2019, a little bit. Then COVID really ramped it up like in 2020. I was working full time as an engineer, so all my sailing was on the weekends. But I just fell in love with it. I was pretty burnt out of Olympic sailing when I stopped doing that in late 2018. And so for me, the Moth just put so much fun back into sailing and just the learning curve. Also, I had been a crew. I had skippered a little bit when I started racing, but the vast majority of my sailing had been double-handed and as a crew. And so now to have the tiller, like there are definitely times when I was like, oh yeah, I have the stick.
Yeah. Don't drop it.
So yeah, exactly. So it was just so fun to like shore up some weaknesses and really test myself and just enjoy that progress. And I still do. I still feel like I'm just getting started, which is the most fun part.
That happens with all boats, with dinghies, like every boat has its own special technique. So, like it's not just the fact that you've gone from crewing to skippering on the Moth, but every single boat has its own technique. I've just bought a fin a few weeks ago. I never sailed one before in my life. And my whole life, when you tack, you've got to go head first through and under. I've only worked out in the last week that what you do to tack a fin is twist and face forward, and then you go down through your tack facing forward, because if you put your head into the centre line, all you do is get smacked in the head by the boom and you end up in hospital.
Go on.
But so that
too
element,
easy.
That element of technique is just...
That's just your technique, though.
Oh,
isn't it?
Oh, sorry. Got a big head to get through the boom. That's right.
Sorry.
Yeah, that whole process is part of the fun of sailing. I think that's why we sail. Is that process development, learning. You're searching for that piece of perfection to do everything perfectly, and so. When you get a new boat or a new idea, you're going through quite a heavy development phase. And then it gets to the minutiae, where you're getting right down to the 1 millimeter maneuvers sort of thing. So,
exactly. Yeah. A couple of things about sailing the Moth, like talking about the minutiae. I love that in the Moth, I see it as like leapfrogging, where at first your technique is holding you back, and then you get better, and then maybe your equipment starts to hold you back. And so then you upgrade, and then it's back to your technique. And I just love that kind of leapfrogging.
Yep.
And deciding like, what to get next. I find the gear selection really interesting.
Yeah.
And then also, at first it was really daunting, but then the more you sail, the more people you meet, and, the more people you have giving you ideas and suggestions. So that's cool. The other thing about the Moth, it's so responsive. It'll just, the boat, you feel it immediately if what you're doing is good or bad. And I joke that like before I started sailing the Moth, I thought, oh yeah, after Olympic campaigning, I'll, probably sail a bigger boat and give that a try. And then what do I do is I go sail like the smallest possible thing that I can. Yeah. But going back to
have you done any solo sailing before? Did you ever sail a laser or anything like that, or no? Straight into crude boats and then now.
right when I was learning how to race, I was in a radial, and then pretty quickly into the 29er, and then college sailing, and then the FX. So yeah, not really. So it is honestly really refreshing to make my own decisions and have no one to blame when I screw up. You'll like this. So got married 3 weeks ago, and my husband's younger brother, Sterling. So Hans has 2 younger siblings, Paris, who is my Olympic teammate, and Sterling. They're twins.
Is that how
and
it fits together?
yeah. Keeping it,
In the
not
family.
intertwined at all. And so Sterling gets up to speak at our wedding, and Sterling actually was the coach for me and a couple of my friends at Moth Worlds. Sterling is a great sailor, and he teaches
Group,
yeah, he teaches kids during the school year, but he had the summer off, and he's like, why don't I come to Weymouth and coach you guys? And Hans is busy, and Hans has been at the last couple Moth Worlds with me, and I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And so Sterling tells this story at our rehearsal dinner, which is like the night before our wedding. He's like, 2 things about it. One is Hans doesn't usually text him or call him very often. And Sterling goes, yeah, turns out all I had to do was be with Helena, and then Hans is blowing up my phone. How's Helena doing? What's the forecast for today? How's she feeling?
Well, because he cares. He's making sure you were getting the best out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second thing is one of the races, half of the races, because this is one race and there were 2 races. In the second race of the regatta, I was actually pretty stoked. I port tacked the fleet, have a great start going off to the right-hand side. That's where all the wind is, and I know that. So I'm like, okay, good. Play the right-hand side up the first beat. And then I'm coming into the bottom mark, and I'm in like 8th or something. Like, this is a great result for me so far. Like, we don't have to take any risk. And then it was getting really light at the bottom of the course, and I knew that I should have done another jibe, but I was starting to get worried about whether I would make it through the jibe. So then I round the right-hand mark, and I go to the left side of the course, and it's one of those things where you just think that there's going to be pressure. And Sterling watches me go all the way to the left, tack, come off the foil, and then low red all the way back to the gate. So Sterling's lesson from that was, oh yeah, you can talk like Stanford and Olympics, whatever, America's Cup, all you want, but you still make some dumb decisions sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, when you were telling the story about the responsiveness of the Moth earlier, I thought, actually, this is a good part. It could have been part of your wedding speech. You could talk about your husband, how he's like a moth, like he's super responsive, leaky, all those sorts of things, as opposed to your ex-boyfriend, a bit like the Club 420. He's dull, non-responsive, all those sorts of things.
I didn't say anything.
I was just saying.
Very nice analogy, though. Very nice analogy.
Oh,
it's romantic. Funny. It's a romantic analogy. Analogy. Yeah.
There you go. You got it out.
One thing. Oh, sorry.
Go, Helen. I was just going to say something stupid.
Oh, you're talking about the Moth class leadership, and something I learned from. I was captain of the team in college for a couple of years of the sailing team.
Yep.
And my biggest takeaway from that was that the team means different things to different people.
Yep.
So some people were there to go win a national championship and that was their goal. And other people were there because they liked sailing and they wanted to do something athletic in college, and they were there for that, and everything in between. And I'm thinking about that now because the same thing in the Moth class, we have this vast spectrum of weekend warriors, and maybe they don't even sail very often, but they've been in the Moth class forever. And then you got the pro sailor superstars that are also at these regattas. So I just love that spectrum, and I love in leading that class, whoever leads that class has to remember that you are trying to, for the health of the class, you need to serve a wide range of perspectives. So, and then same thing in thinking about American Magic and the America's Cup team, that people's jobs on that team mean very different things to them, and their roles, have very different day-to-day realities. So I think it's so cool that we all come together for one goal. But you got to remember that people have these different perspectives.
It's a good point. It's an excellent point. It's very grown up. It's a bit disconcerting for us.
It's almost a bit too grown up.
Yeah, it's very grown up.
We're going,
a lot of wisdom.
No, only joking, Helena. Only joking.
Let's get into a bit about American Magic. Obviously, first, congratulations with the first event, Villanova, and you've got, you had, let us say, at the last Cup, American Magic didn't have the best run. And you can see that the whole process and the way that team is being run now is they're ahead of the curve rather than chasing the curve. You can see that now. Like it comes to us from the outside looking in. And you guys, the Kiwis were always been ahead of the curve. And the last Cup, the Italians were close because they were sharing similar designs and, there was a lot of overlaps, but the Kiwis still had the advantage. The Kiwis still are ahead of the curve, but boy, oh boy, there's clearly another boat that's stepping in front of the curve. Is that all down to you?
So obviously not. But
Come on.
My boss from the job I was at before American Magic, Mike Martin, he's a 505 sailor. And so he was my boss at my old company, and he texted me when we won. He's like, is this all because of you?
Nice.
But
he's a great mate of
like
mine, Mike, just so be careful.
He's about to start 505 Worlds on the city front in San Francisco this coming week. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, in all seriousness, it's really amazing. I know that last Cup was obviously challenging for the team, and from what I hear, they've done a really good reflection of what they can do better and made really positive changes, and I am absolutely loving it. So I'm just it's so cool to be a part of it, and I'm learning as much as I can and really trying to push on things where I can as well.
So tell us about the whole joining the team, how that happened. Was it something that you had desired to do for quite some time, or you stumbled across it?
To be honest, I think it always interested me, but I didn't know if I would feel like I belonged, and I had to give myself permission to go for it. So I think like deep down, I really wanted to do it, but I didn't know like what it would entail. Scott Ferguson, who's the design coordinator, he had reached out to me in the past. And then also a guy named Riley Schutt, who is, I knew from working with him on the US sailing team. And he is also working with American Magic. So Riley reached out a couple times. And on the third time, I was like, all right, let's talk. Wow. So that was in April this year.
So you had people chasing you. Yeah. I mean, this is a bit different than someone, sweeping the floor and just working their way up. And this is an interesting path, isn't it? So the people knew you were around and were looking for you. Must feel good.
She did have to sweep the floor at Stanford, mate.
Yeah, I know that. There's different levels of sweeping, mate.
It did feel good. And even though I knew people were hitting me up and wanting me to be part of it, I still had to like overcome some doubts. And it's easy to look back and be like, oh, what was I thinking? But it was very real for me at the time.
Okay, so you've gone in, you've met the team, and here's your desk, here's your computer, go to work. Where do you start?
Yeah, started by trying to get a lay of the land of all the different operations. So the simulator, being on the water, of course, learning about the stuff that my department does, learning about what people's roles are, talking to the sailors and trying to understand what they're actually doing on the boats. So just trying to get a very big picture perspective and diving in and really trying to figure out where I can have the biggest impact. And there's so many interesting problems. So it's more of a question of like, what's the biggest priority rather than like, what should I do?
So I work quite closely with Britton Ward, obviously at FAR, and I know I've been working with him for a long, long time. And he said that one of the biggest things for him personally was having slingers come on board. Have you had much of time with Tom?
Yeah, I have. So as a mechatronics engineer, engineer, I'm designing what we call the human interface devices. So we call them HIDs. And so that's basically the sailor's controls. So the wheels, the buttons, the joysticks, the trimming, the flight control, like any interface. I'm helping to work on that. And so, yeah, talking with the sailors, including slingers, is a big part of my job. And something I think is a strength that I bring is being that bridge between sailing and engineering. I haven't sailed the AC40 yet, but I have, a lot of experience sailing with other people and high performance boats and foiling. And so I try to be that bridge, helping the sailors understand a bit more about the engineering constraints, and then helping the engineers understand more about what the interface needs. And yeah.
Well, it's probably lucky you did meet slingers and you've got Tyson on the team too, so you can understand us three for starters. So that's given you some good training. Well, so just onto the day-to-day, like the interface you speak about, does that translate everything, for example, like the grips in their hands to the PLC programming, like pretty much the whole process? Is that what you're talking about in that regard?
So I'm not doing the PLC programming itself, but I'm talking directly with the people who do. And
I'm guessing, obviously, on the big boat, it was pretty, I guess, that ahead of the curve you spoke about, Jordan, like Team New Zealand being so far ahead of the curve at certain times. From what I heard, it was because of that side of things initially.
Yeah.
They had a really good program in regards to, how all that was executed. Is that kind of where you can see the next cup being won and lost? So pretty much the next cup being won or lost is on your shoulders.
I have other people around me too,
don't feel
which is great. But I mean, honestly, this job is a dream, not only because I'm working with American Magic, in the America's Cup, and being in Barcelona is absolutely fantastic, but I really feel like I've entered into a position where I can have a big impact and take a lot of ownership.
Fantastic.
So
I
that's
can
really
feel the excitement. It's so cool. I love doing it. It's just there. It's bubbling. It's frothing. It's ready to go. And the new boat is nearly there. It's slowly happening. Yeah, no comment.
With the human interfaces and that whole element, and being ahead of the curve now. Obviously, there's more Australians in the American Magic team, so obviously now it's suddenly ahead of the curve. Do you have to do human interfaces differently just for the Australians?
Not quite, but it is interesting.
I thought you were going to say it is challenging.
It may or may not depend on
what color their
hair is. It may or may not depend. Yeah, for the gingers we do make some changes.
Yeah, well, there's two here, so.
But in all seriousness, the sailors are very different in their styles. I think that's also fascinating because these are people that are at the top of their game, absolutely world class, and they have very different styles of how they sail the boat, also how they communicate, and that's really cool too. So it's not the thing that I keep reminding myself is there's not one perfect interface that makes sense for every person. We need to balance different people's ideas and how they work as a sailor. So that's also really cool. The funny thing about engineering is every project I'm on, it doesn't actually come down to the engineering, it comes down to the communication. And so one of the biggest things I can do is make sure people aren't siloed and that we're all talking together. And mechatronics, I said how it was like mechanical, electronics, and software. Those are three different disciplines.
But it's the input.
And so it's really about being at the intersection of these things. And I'm interfacing with so many people on the team because of the stuff that I'm designing is at the intersection of the boat and the sailors. So understanding the systems on board, and then also understanding like what's going through the sailor's head when they're approaching the mark at 50 knots. Like those things are super cool to try to tie together.
If I had my time again, I'd love it. I think it'd be so cool if I had the brain space. That is.
There's a few prerequisites required, BP. Tell me, Helena, when's AI creep into this in regards to creeping into Cup World and driving these boats, not necessarily driving them, but flying them and all those sorts of things, or is it already happening?
Yeah, it's tough to know because it's a really challenging problem from an AI or like machine learning perspective. So I am pretty excited to see what happens this Cup with like how far other teams progress and including us. But the other thing I think was demonstrated this past weekend in Villanova is that you can't overcomplicate things and you still have to sail the boat well. So there's a real art to, you can like really dive into the weeds and try to put a lot of logic on stuff this time with the new rules. But you also need to, like most things in life, not overcomplicate it.
Wow.
And so many elements, right? Like, and then the next, like, there might, is there a design restriction or cap or salary or something in regards to that? Because I'm just thinking in my head, like, you need a full team of engineers working on the foils, because that's literally the interface of the boat to the water. It's going to make you go 5 knots quicker or 5 knots slower, right? So that's one massive element. But then you've got to get the boat around the track. So you need this whole design team of engineers, making the boat tack properly and all those sorts of things. It just must be, where do you start and stop?
I know, that's my question.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
My brain cell is just absolutely just vibrating with just too much information.
Something that is a challenge is you also have to be able to make things so that people can try them, because you can't just sit there and like theorize and come to an answer. You have to give people things to try. Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. So
bit of 3D printing here and a bit of sellotape there. All good.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Do you guys, as in the mechatronics industry, let's call it an industry now because it's a word that's popped up a few times in our show. Do you speak to the other teams at all? The other mechatronicers in the team?
Mechatronicers.
Do you hang out?
Do
you go out
in Villanova?
Do you go out and do little meetings and go and talk about mechatronics?
Yeah, we just go and stare at each other's shoes, actually.
Yeah, I got to say, we did have a conversation last night. You did say you're an introvert and an engineer, and I come back to say, sum that up, you're a nerd, right?
Yeah, exactly. I got the pleasure of, I met Elise before, but Elise Beavis from Emirates Team New Zealand, ran into her at Villanova and had a quick chat. And then Dan Bernasconi was there as well. And so, it's cool. It's a fascinating side of the Cup because, exactly. And what they've done with the 40s is really cool. It's, that's a feat in and of itself to crank those boats out and have them all on the racetrack. It's, I think mechatronics is an interesting side of the Cup because you can take pictures of the foils, you can take pictures of people's sails, you can, take pictures of different things that are above board, but a lot of the mechatronics is in the software. And so Recon can't see that. So it's also hard to understand. So so I think it's easy for most people to not totally appreciate it, but it's definitely
most people wouldn't even know what's going on. That's the thing.
That's it. That's part of it. The reason why we like talking about it, because we appreciate it and we understand it, because we know that it takes this stuff to make this stuff work. And when you look at the first couple of cups and the little bits and pieces that were going wrong, even the Sail GP, it's a little technical glitch in the mechatronic department. And that's the problem that, faces every team, is that can happen very quickly, and it's probably an easy fix. but it wrecks your day.
Mhm. Yeah. And part of the challenge with mechatronics is we call it like debugging. Most people would
Yeah.
say troubleshooting. But when something happens, you have to figure out, is it the hardware? Is it the software? Is it an electrical thing? And so
Is it
honestly,
someone
it's
with
just-
with red hair?
Really
you
easy.
never
Just
know,
got-
man.
Just got to turn it off and reboot. Turn it off and reboot.
Yeah, do that
Honestly,
halfway up.
yeah.
Halfway up the windward leg.
But
Can't
then
tack.
Rebooting.
God,
Oh, shit.
I just hope somebody says, like you hear on the radio one day, have you tried turning it off and restarting?
The Kiwi
Guys, we
reboot.
can't tack. We're upgrading. Stop it.
Well, I'm going to
Don't
say
turn your
Mechatronics
computer
is probably responsible for 100% flight time on what we've seen happen over the last few years in that regard. But back to Villanova, your observations just from a team perspective and a sailor's perspective.
Yeah, so during the Villanova weekend, I was actually doing commentary for American Magic's VIPs and sponsors, and I was up on the second level of this spectator boat, which was nice. We had a really cool view of the course. And let's see, the handling, the maneuvers, and of course, when it's that light, especially as it was
Difficult.
at some points on Saturday and Sunday, really difficult. You got to get foiling. And it's going to be interesting what happens with the tow ups and stuff. That's like a whole nother new part of the game. Towing up before 3 minutes, but then given the size of the starting box and everything, like being able to do those maneuvers and stay foiling for the start is a real challenge. So it reminds me a lot of my moth sailing of like, you have to balance.
Absolutely.
Right now we're just trying to stay foiling, and then you put a premium on doing your maneuver in the right spot and things like that, and then making that mental shift when it's when there's enough wind that's no longer your priority, and you need to start really playing the course a bit, like full strategy tactics mode. So it's really cool to see all 6 boats on the course at once. That was pretty sweet too. With this course size and boundaries and everything, then there's some aspects of things that we see in SailGP that take note of.
So I thought obviously you guys went well, the Kiwis went well. I thought the Kiwis from a pace point of view, like when they were out in front, they were fast. But battling in the fleet is obviously hard to get out there. The Poms was pretty disappointing. But then everyone else was kind of around about, I thought. So did anything stand out to you or in that regard?
So Ineos was quite far back. But then the other 5 teams were really close. And that was cool. I was impressed by the French team for sure, because of course they haven't had their AC40 for very long. And so, of course, it's no surprise we've sailed the 40 a lot. And however, other teams are saying that they hadn't sailed the 40 very much, but then the French come out, and I think it just goes to show that like focusing on sailing the boat well, like I don't know what the French did, but putting it out of their minds and just being like, we're accepting, we're here sailing this boat. Exactly. And
that was
so
their commentary. That was their commentary before the start of the regatta. Said we're just going to go sailing.
I'll tell you this.
The result.
They're good mates. They've sailed together a long time. Those guys. They've all the team that came through with Quentin. They're good mates and they love sailing together and they're having a good time. And I think that's part of it. So,
goes a long way.
Yeah. You learn so much faster when you're having fun. And I think they also had a really rapid progression in SailGP once Quentin took over. So I'm not surprised to see them be able to do something in the AC40, which is really cool. And obviously the Cup, there's many more aspects than what we have on display in Villanova, but still regardless, like a really, really cool showing.
I think it actually comes down to, I went into the French base when we were there, and everyone's sitting around having coffees, croissants, hanging out in some pretty cool containers. So it's clearly come down to the container gate that we spoke about. You don't get that one later,
Helena,
but
Bicey sold him the containers, so he's talking about his
Nice.
own container.
How did you feel about the vibe of the place? Because
We're touring the castle, are we? It's the vibe of the
the
thing.
Marbo, you know, the vibe. No, because Bryce and I were there, we were having a great time, and it was not. I'll take the Friday out of the equation, but the Thursday, and I stayed for the Saturday. The Saturday was a fantastic day. There was so many people there having a great time, you know, plus or minus the sailing. We got 2 races away on the Saturday, but it was just a fantastic time, fantastic place to be.
Yeah, I was there Saturday and Sunday only, and I didn't go to the race village until the Sunday awards, but I know that our team, and I think every team, had just so many people in line at the booths, and it was heaving with people, which is really cool to see. And then there are also lots of spectator boats. So for a small town, you know, outside of Barcelona, maybe it's not small town. It's not really a small town, but it's not a big place. And so I think Barcelona in a year's time is going to be off the hook.
Going to be off the hook for sure.
It's going to be massive. Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially with the women and youth, it's going to be huge.
Yep. And
that's a whole nother point. This is
we're well over time already. And I suspect we could go for another few hours with this conversation. We're having a good time. So, we do have to finish it off. So I do want to point out, we haven't really got into you in a huge amount of detail. Like you were awarded the Female Foiling Sailor of the Year at the Foiling Awards. Does that mean, are we going to see you in the women's event? Have you got time for that?
Question.
Yeah, I am planning to sail in the Women's America's Cup next fall. Yeah,
done.
it'd be really cool.
For England or the US?
Because she's going to work for American Magic and sail.
For New York Yacht Club American Magic.
It's called the ultimate spy technique.
Well, so you haven't sailed the 40 yet. So when do you get to go for a yacht?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have sailing gear, so I'm ready.
Yeah.
Standing on the dock waiting.
Just every day when you're riding down to the base, just have your have your life vest.
There, walking up and down the dock waiting.
Yeah.
Got your helmet and your big.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Goggles.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I've got to say though, like that's super smart in regards to your role from a shore point of view, and to be able to translate from that being off the water as on and off the water. I mean, that's some master.
The word is indispensable. Indispensable.
I tell you what.
No, I'm going to say, and back to it. Basically, if you guys win or lose the cup, I think it's on your shoulders.
Helena, what we'll do, because I think the other 2 idiots will agree with me, we still have lots more we want to discuss with you, but what we'll do is, if you'd like, I think we'd like to get you back on, if you don't mind, because there's plenty more to come, but would you be interested? Or have you had a
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we got some more jokes to crack too. Yeah.
I love it. You
haven't even spoken about your mate's father who was in hospital listening to bar karate. So we'll have to save that one.
That's a story for next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll get you. I really want to hear about your sailing experiences on the 40 as well. So we'll do it after that. But I do want to say it has been really fun for us. Like, it's been impressive, you know, like as 3 blokes who run a little bit wide and loose, to work with, you know, and talk with someone who's so switched on.
I had to run out and get my dinner.
Yeah.
I literally had to run down to the block next door because he couldn't find the house.
Yeah. Pretty professional stuff here.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we're like the American Magic. Obviously, we've talked to a lot of the American Magic team. I don't know why we've got a bias there. I don't think we have a bias, but we're very happy for you guys. And you know, we'd really love to chat some more. So we're very grateful for you to come and take some time to, whilst you're in your honeymoon period, to come away from Hans and spend time with us. But probably makes Hans look even better now, doesn't it?
Sorry, what was that last bit? You cut out for
I
a
was
second.
just saying, hanging out with us three would make Hans look even better right now.
Yeah. Relatively speaking, he's actually like asleep in the corner now.
Asleep in the corner. There you go. Well, that's what we do to everyone.
Yeah.
So we're all good. At least we're keeping up with our norms.
Cool.
Righto. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and it's been great chatting to you. We do want to hear more about what goes on, and we love that mechatronics word.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really fun to talk to you guys. Thanks for the laughs, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Cool.
Cheers.
Right. Cheers, Helena. Thank you.
Mate, I think I made the comment, but you did the same thing. That chat with Helena was just sailed by. Like it was so interesting, and we didn't get to half the stuff we wanted to talk about.
So for the listener, like generally we try and keep the interview around an hour, and we kind of keep a bit of an eye on time. It's no hard or fast rule, but boom, 1 hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened, and there's so many more things to talk about.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those great chats that just kept flowing.
I think we'll reach back out to after she's been sailing on the AC40 a bit. I reckon that'd be interesting for all of the listeners. Yeah. So
how good are the Americans to interview?
They're just great for the interview. They're just so good.
Love the banter too.
Yeah. The Yanks need to stand up and just be proud. World
and all the
champions.
Yanks out there, send us some names in.
Yeah,
we love you guys.
I love it.
Fives all over the joint. Miss me, the eye.
Speaking of love, we've been getting a little bit of Radix have been getting a little bit of love.
Yes.
A young fella by the name of Dave Snowd, we noticed, did a review on their website. I've started using Radix's products after hearing about it on Barkarati, the sailing podcast. I found it all the meals and particularly the breakfast delicious. Recently I sailed a 5-0 regatta in France. This guy's my favourite guy in the world. Radix 5-0s, and had an 800 kilo breakfast each day, a calorie breakfast each day before racing. I've never had better energy levels in a whole day of racing. Felt great in general, lost a few kilos as a bonus. I'm now inserting Radix meals Radix meals into my days at work when I'm busy to ensure I have a healthy, nutritious option. Good on him. On you. And of course we know Snowdy really well. So.
Of course we know. And we posted that photo at those particular 505s when he had that big cut across his head.
Yeah.
So I was wondering why there was such rich colour in his blood. Clearly because of the Radix. But I'll tell you what had a lot of rich colour was actually last night.
Yeah.
After the Commodores dinner at the Cruising Yacht Club South Australia, a whole bunch of us went back to Snowdy's private cellar. And the red wine certainly had a rich colour.
It's funny you mentioned drinks.
And there wasn't much Radix around at that point. We definitely weren't looking after our health.
Okay.
Put it that way.
It's funny you mentioned drinks because I actually have been getting into their drinks a bit lately because they do a whole bunch of different protein drinks that you get maximum absorption. Some are plant-based proteins and some of the superfoods. So you get the recovery smoothies, which I'm a bit partial to. The berry and banana is just beautiful. And then you got the ultimate recovery as well. So they've been ones to get into. So if you're into the Radix or you want to give it a go, just jump onto their website, Radix Nutrition, and type in the code Barkarati, you'll get a 10% discount and your life will be glamour. Happy days. Very cool.
Be able to take over the world.
Yeah, so much energy. Yeah. Dear. Events coming up. Just mentioned the Royal Geelong Yacht Club. It's got the Fireball Worlds coming up in February next year. Great class, Fireball. A few females do really, really well in that class. They battle right at the front there. So that'll be a good one, big one to come to Geelong. And if you're an overseas competitor thinking about coming and you don't know what Geelong's like, it's bloody lovely.
Flatwater,
Corio Bay.
Yeah.
Good pubs, great vape venue, grass. She's a good spot to go for a yacht. You will
enjoy. Probably second to the Rainbow as a flat water sailing boat. So, and Corio Bay just hosts it beautifully. So it'll be a spectacular event.
Sure. Yeah, get on it. If you're thinking about it, jump on it. Coming up, the other one that we have to mention, just a quiet little race, is Barcelona, the 55th Barcelona. Just a quiet little 8th of October. Just wanted to raise everyone's name in Trieste in Italy. If you haven't
Can
heard...
we run through the entry list thus far? That'll be a whole separate podcast.
For those who don't know the Barcelona, right? It is actually the largest sailing event in the world. It's like 2,500 boats out there, right? It's carnage.
Unbelievable.
And what is the attraction? I have no idea. I don't know. They sail a 13 nautical mile course, right? It's just a quadrangle, basically. You're going around in a square, like the shape of where we played hand tennis as kids, the same shape.
That size as well.
Yeah, and about that size as well. So whatever it is, everyone turns up, everyone asks you.
I remember, and this is showing my age, maybe it's, I'm going to say 20 years ago, so 03. I did the Barcelona, and I actually went and lived in Trieste specifically so we could campaign a boat for the Barcelona. We had 2 weeks training, full pro crew on this boat. It was a 78-foot Reichel Pew called Idea. And chartered by that Shining. Anyway, 2 full weeks, 13-mile race. We took the biscuits, which was awesome. But like you say, what's the attraction? You get there, it is unbelievable. It is like a festival for a week around this race that happens on a Sunday morning.
Indeed. I think that must be because it's so close. Maybe we have lost BP. Right?
By the way. Yeah, we've got to mention that bit.
We completely lost him. We have no idea where he's gone,
He's
right?
not sitting in the background, and you can't hear him talking over us because he's not here.
Yeah.
He's the beard.
Maybe he's gone to Barcelona to prepare. I have no idea.
Maybe
Anyway,
next to up there. Yeah.
Anyway, but so if you're wondering why it's all quiet, we genuinely don't know where BP is. We've actually been on Channel 16 calling out, seeing if he responds.
Channel 16, starboard. Anyone out there?
He had a port starboard with the local police. Another question for you, mate, before we go on to the Vycobi Jack Lloyd Listener of the Week. Do you believe in miracles?
Do you?
I got to tell you a story, right? This is funny.
All right, what do you got?
This is yesterday, right? So yesterday, it's the weekend. It's windy, so I said to my beautiful wife, got to do a little bit of work on the Lovemobile. We're slowly turning into a luxury Lovemobile thing, and so we did a little bit of tinkering, and I had to go to the hardware store. I said, I need a bit of lunch. Let's go to the hardware store because that's how you get lunch in Australia.
Absolutely.
And then we were going to go. I was going to go for a wingding, right? And she's going, on the way, there's this property I wouldn't mind having a look at. Can we go to this open inspection? I said, yeah, no worries. So we drive in, beautiful house, lovely. Take my shoes off. So I'm wearing this is not an endorsement for the brand in any way, but I'm wearing my reef thongs, right? So a little leather strap, they got the little stubby opener in the bottom. If you don't know the brand, they're a global brand, you'd know them. But anyway, so I've got these. They're pretty decent, Nick.
I'm looking for a thong sponsor.
Yep. Yeah, actually, thong sponsor would go well in a yachting podcast. Anyway, so my thongs get a pretty hard life. I wear them 98% of my time. And they go from the office to the fiberglassing bay, and I wear them pretty full time. And it has got to the stage. They're still in pretty good nick, but it has got to the stage where the bride's gone, they're getting a bit smelly. Can you do something about that, right? Anyway, take my thongs off, right? Go and look around the house. Come out where the last people left. Walking out, I go, there's a pair of reef thongs just there. And I look at them and I go, oh, they're a bit new and cleaner than mine. And then I've looked at their agent and I said, I think somebody's walked off with my
yours
and left another pair exactly the same size.
No.
Except newer, cleaner, non-smelly. Basically, it's a miracle, Christmas miracle. I got a new pair of thongs.
Christmas miracle. Absolutely. You've absolutely nailed it.
And the agent's looking at me and said, he's gone, man. And I said, well, I'm taking these. He took mine. I'll take these. So I got a new pair of thongs.
So his wife now is like, your thongs are off. A bit on the nose, but
What's this fiberglass on this? This is all these dregs on it. I don't know if our mates at Vycobi actually do thongs yet. They're onto pretty much everything else. So they've got all this. They're cool.
we haven't got our tracksuits yet.
Yeah, but they are. One thing was going through is their thermal water top. So you can layer up using some of their different thermal tops. So they've got sort of the very cold base layer.
Be cold, love the Be Cold. Got an array myself of the Be Cold.
They've got the V-Cold Hydroflex top, which adds a microfleece layer to support your upper body. So it's a good way to... And then you've got the Very Cold Flex top. And then you've actually got a vest as well. So you've got all sorts of different layers you can use with the Vycobi shop. And plus all their sailing gear. They do a fantastic job, as we've discussed before. And if you do want to get onto the Vycobi, because we genuinely love it, go on to their website. So Vycobi is, should I spell it? Vaikobi. And Vycobi means absolutely nothing. It's a made-up word. But yeah, go to that website, Vycobi, and type in Barkarati.
Code on checkout, Barkarati, one word, for your 10% off. It's all for the listeners.
It's just all for the listeners. And as we said, every month, so probably next week we're going to go decide listener of the month. $200 voucher coming to somebody each month for the next 12 months. Happy days. Send in your entries or your thoughts to cheers@barkarati.com is our preferred avenue. We have got a couple come in for Godfrey Henning, who's one of our favourites. We had a couple of favourites. We've got a lot of multiple repeat emails, so we'll just mention some of the names that have been with us consistently. So Godfrey, he's nominated a few. We've had a few people nominate some guests, and Godfrey was one. He came through with a couple of good guest suggestions. I'm just trying to, should we read it or should just leave it?
Well, or we can leave it as a surprise because we'll reach out to these particular guests and try to get them on.
Yeah, okay.
You know, the listener on the edge of their seat, so to speak.
Okay. And the other one we got was that photo of Blair from the AC40. So if you look on there's a photo of Blair swinging off the side stay of the AC40. And
he wasn't wearing his reef thongs.
He was wearing his Crocs.
Love it.
And we got we got a few different comments, including.
Oh, actually, this could be a conflict: reef thong or Crocs.
Oh, yeah, I know which one I'm going for.
Ooh, yeah. We're allowed personal sponsors, right?
Yeah, right. Anyway, so we got a few different nominations for that. One is it looks like Blair's taken up 470 sailing and air routing on an AC40, which could be successful, don't know. And then the other one was the mention of the Crocs. So a big thanks out to Dom Keem, another listener that sends in a few. And then we got a nice one, and this was our last contact we heard from BP. Cameron Wilson just sent in, love to hear an episode about the Manly 16-foot skiff club one day.
Good choice.
It could be the Manly one, could be the Belmont one, but it should be about the 16s, I think. What is the magic by which you get paid to buy a boat and sail it, even if you don't finish? Moreover, this fleet attracts so many elite sailors. Dinghy Sailing Nirvana, I say. And he's an Aussie living in the US and sailing in the International Lightning class. The Lightning is an S&S design. It's like a VX1 if only the VX had been drawn in 1938. Highly competitive one design class in the East Midwestern United States and South America. Yeah, cool. Okay. Cameron, I actually really like that email because, and Bicey responded to exactly the same. The 16s for the listeners, 3-person, 2 on the wire, 1 steering, sitting on the boat, skiff hull.
And the format, what they've set up, and as he alludes to, like, how does that work?
Well, you get paid to sail.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. And when I lived in Newcastle, I was a member of the Belmont 16-foot skiff club, and it is the cheapest yacht club membership in the world, I think. I think it's like $1 for 5 years, but you got to pay your $80 to Australian Sailing as well, but that's about it. But yeah. I don't know where the money, well, we know where the money comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The one-armed bandits. Yeah, but anyway, a great one. So yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah.
It's hot time with Bice.
Look, before we kick it off, it was certainly hot time with Bice last night at the Commodores dinner. We had it's kind of been a bit of a mark in my diary for quite some time now, to be back from overseas for this particular weekend, because it was our Cruising Yacht Club South Australia AGM Thursday night, re-elected as Commodore, so I'm very proud about that. Friday night was the SA, or Australian Sailing State Sailing Awards in South Australia, and then last night culminated in the Commodore's dinner at the Cruising Yacht Club of South Australia, of which it's quite a young club. It's the 50th year. We had 6 previous Commodores there, a widow of a previous Commodore as well. So I was well represented, and the dance floor was well represented. And then when we were all well represented at Snowdy's house afterwards. So it was quite the night. And but just going back to the State Sailing Awards, I hate to say it, mate, Karate, we didn't win. We didn't get the 4th promo award. We were a finalist, but you know who did get it?
You.
Dockside Festival.
Yeah.
So, of which you were a big part of as well, Jordan. Did the commentary of that. So pretty much we've won that award.
Yeah.
Of course, with our 4th leg of Barkarati is with Harry Fisher.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was Barkarati by proxy.
Pretty much, basically. But just a bit of a shout out actually to the CYC. We won the Club of the Year, which is a grand achievement. I'm definitely looking forward to going to the national awards wherever they may be. The She Sails Award went to the SA Women's Keelboat Regatta. Now, for SA listeners, do yourself a favour, get down to the CYC next weekend. This event will be going on, 31 boats. It's bigger than the Australian Women's Keelboat Regatta.
Wow.
180 competitors. It's going to be huge, but do bring your earmuffs. Seriously. It is madness when they're giving out prizes.
Okay.
Like, it's just going ballistic.
Okay.
Shout out to Maddie. She won Coach of the Year.
Yeah, congratulations,
the
man.
CYC and Adelaide Sailing Club. Team of the Year, SMB.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well done, Betch.
Well done to Jeffrey, Lifetime Achievement Award, Jeff Betcher.
Yeah.
And then, as mentioned,
Well
Club of the Year. So I think next year they're actually going to call them the Bice Awards.
Yeah, the Bice Awards. I think that's what they call them in Sweden. Shit Awards. Congratulations, mate. Well, a great year as a Commodore, so you should be very proud. I would describe
going to retirement.
As so CYCSA is a big club. The biggest club in Queensland is the RQYS. So two of the biggest clubs. And the Commodore of that club now is John Wallow, who's a proper good fellow, much in the same vein as you, Mr. Bice. It's similar sort of temperament and approach to life. So, you know. It's
what we're saying, we could maybe do a little hookup, compare notes, so to speak.
Australian yacht clubs aren't very stuffy, you know. You're not going to be wearing your like Wallow. I just said to him the other day, we're having a few beers, and I just said, "Oh, this is great, proper Commodore," you know.
To tell you the truth, like everyone when I stepped into that position, it's old stuffy yacht clubs, blah blah blah, all this sort of stuff.
No,
not at all.
No,
like people love, and I'm not saying I've changed anything, but just challenged a few things, right?
Yeah.
And not afraid to just take the old analogy, you know, we're not saving lives here, we're a bloody yacht club. Let's have a good time.
Have a good time. For overseas listeners, if you're coming down, come into the club.
All right. Enough about me.
Enough about the Bice. Yeah, the Bice hour.
Apologies,
I was just thinking
that. All right, mate. Let's get into it. The controversy during the week, the 52 Super Series. Final regatta of the year, Port of Patals. I was there last week.
That was a game changer, wasn't it?
So picture this. You're coming into the last event. You've had an absolute blinder throughout the year. You're 30-odd points ahead.
Yep.
Leading the scoreboard. You missed 3 days of racing. This for the whole year. You miss 3 days of racing, accumulate 36 points. You then finish this particular regatta with a whole bunch more points than you've accumulated throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
And now you've come second in the overall championship on a countback. So Platoon this week has essentially cinched the deal of winning the whole year on 198 points. Provetza, who was leading by 30 odd points leading into this regatta, 198 points, but lose on the countback because they didn't have not a very good regatta. So a few rigging issues, which basically put them on the sidelines for one day. Must be heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching.
Absolutely heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So are they going
big shout out actually to Provetza. They sailed a hell of a season.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not a way that you don't want to, season to end. But a massive shout out also to Phoenix this week.
Yeah.
Absolutely nailed it. 29 points. They won the regatta. They've sailed extremely well. Had an absolute blinder. So to the Platinum family and Tony, you've done very, very well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, well said. Good sailing, good regatta. I mean, there's so many pros. I've been watching the highlights and just every face in there.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my call up, but I haven't heard the phone. They obviously lost my number.
It is. Well, I'll give them your number too. So next year, they are doing 2 regattas in the US.
Oh, yeah.
One being Newport, Rhode Island. During that, I don't know if it's Block Island Week or New York Yacht Club Week or whatever it is. But 2 regattas in the US, so the boats will be getting shipped over. So that'll be pretty cool.
And our NASA mates will be out there as well, obviously.
So absolutely. So I'll be interested to see what the fallout from this last week of sailing with all the controversy. And but hopefully it doesn't scare anyone away because they are literally the coolest boats getting around and a cool, 10 of them on a start line. Don't get much better.
I've heard rumours. We probably that one boat may be going. Do those new Wallies? Do they obviously don't fit in the box rule?
No, they don't fit in the Super Series rule.
It's a bummer.
But
cool.
It's I guess So we might as well talk the Wally Rocket 51.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be
owning one. You're buying one.
From I might get one or two. But the Ferretti team behind Wally have, just come up with this concept, which I think when you look at the renderings, you're like, oh, this is super cool. So One Design Racing on the Med, well, actually anywhere for that matter. So cool boats, cool size, water ballast, all the top ends, sails, winches from our friends at Harkin, and of course spars from Southern Spars. But just on that side, it's they hope to see to set 10 to 12 boats on the water in only next 12 to 18 months. It's going to be.
Is that right? 10 to 12 already. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
they look cool. They look super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the secret, isn't it? You build one design boat, you create a series. It's what Swan are doing. They're doing it super well. Do regattas that are fun in good locations. It's what dinghy clubs should be doing. All the dinghy classes should be doing the same thing. Make them regattas you go and travel to. That's all I want to do. I just want to go to regattas and have a laugh.
Yep. Absolutely. So moving on, Sail GP, my friend. We've got at time of recording where they've still got the final day coming up.
Yeah.
What's the current status, my man?
Oh, well, they had good breeze yesterday, quite a bit of breeze. It was a tied score. The GBR wins on the countback. So Team GBR are leading currently after 3 races yesterday. The scorecard was the Aussies won the first race. The Aussies won the second race, and then Denmark won the third race. The Aussies were over the line by 1 second, had to go right to the back of the fleet and only got themselves back up to 5th. The Poms had a 2-2-3, so that's tied score, which is...
And France not far behind either.
No, the French are sitting in 3rd, doing a good job. There was... a few little crazy things. So our poor German friends had to retire in the first race. I think they well, I think they hit the wrong button and put their they pivoted a rudder into or fall into the wrong spot and did some damage, and that's basically them out. And of course, the Kiwis are out because of the wing damage. Although there is automatic,
which they are getting redress.
That's right.
For a
they brought in the new rules to keep the Kiwis in it. So yeah. I think automatic 5th place or something is what they're doing. The Yanks had another man overboard after a crash down in the 3rd race, so that was a little bit scary. And then, of course, in the flyby on the Friday before, boys.
Old Kyle. You can see him. He was just standing on the side, just waving to the fans. Here I am, King of Australia, King of the world. Next thing you know, Wooshka, she's tipping over.
She's nearly it.
Kangaroo. She's going over, and then everyone is freaking out big time.
Yeah.
And you see, I think it is Kyle. He leans in to let the wing off, so to speak. So invert.
Yep.
And basically the boat must have been so close.
So close. There couldn't have been more than like a half a degree left to go before she was in. Yeah, definitely. You would have fallen if you weren't holding on or strapped in. You were falling. It was pretty
cool. We shared that one on the social, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Yeah.
So Sail GP, we'll see a winner crowned after.
It should be wind again today, I think.
Yeah. Excellent. So moving on, my friend, Defi Azimut in the Mockers has taken the 48-hour has taken place. The speed runs got cancelled due to too much grease. But the 48-hour, Chiral takes the win. Jeremy Bayou, Frank Camas, Sam Manuard design in 1 day, 17 hours. Massif, which is Charlie Darlin and Pascal, 1 hour 19. So Chiral was actually given them a little licking. Yeah. This is probably not the first time we've seen this boat out fighting with anger, but some good things coming up, I'd say, for that. So
and some good friends, Sammy Goodchild and Tom. Real in
so Sam Goodchild, friend of the show, for the Planet, came in 3rd, half an hour behind Massif. So well done to those teams.
I tell you who, look at this in 5th there, Sammy Davis and Jack Boutel.
Jack Boutel, friend of the show.
Yeah, both of them. Yep, that's cool.
Absolutely. So well done to them.
We're into it.
So that's all obviously just shaping up, ready for I think they've got one little day race left.
Yep.
But everything looking for the Transat this year, of course.
Yep.
Double-handed. So,
yep. And that obviously, that French offshore scene, we go into the mini Transat.
Yeah. Okay, next Star Class.
Oh, no. Let's just finish off on that mini Transat.
Sorry.
So the mini Transat's supposed to start today. Remember last week we forecast that the wind, it could be pretty onerous, a little bit nerve-wracking. They've actually delayed the start. So we'll just have a look.
Maybe that's where BP is. He's gone up there, told him to delay it.
He's rushed down. I'm not sure how long it's going to be delayed. It probably could go Monday, in all honesty. Is the truth of it. So I suspect that they will, but it's going to be a bit of an upwind slog through a lot of light wind ridge. It's going to be very tough. I think basically that they were very worried about getting around Finisterre in some really ugly seas, and they didn't want to do that. So a day delay, I reckon, is what I would guess. But at the moment, we're currently delayed for the mini Transat. Anyway, continue.
Probably that. Star Class. Worlds are being raced. There's still 1 day left.
Yep.
So at time of recording at the moment, we got Pete Eckert and Freddie, we call him, Freddie Malo. Leading the top of the scoreboard. With a total of 6. They've had a 3-4-5-4. So they're actually having a bit of a blinder. You look down the list, there's quite the names here. Enrico Chieffe, Eric Doyle, Juan Camugian. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that and see where that all finalises.
That should finish today. They've had a lot of days where there's been no wind, and then a little bit. They had 1 day with a lot of wind. So It has been difficult for them to get away a big series, but sailing today should be good. I see Tonchi Stepanovic.
Never normally like this. So.
Yeah, never normally like this. Even laser world champ Tonchi Stepanovic is in there as well, so having a bit of a go. There's some everyone's having a go.
I wonder if he's wearing his Vykobi hiking pants,
100%.
just with that little pocket inside, got a banana.
100%. Yeah, cool.
That's it from me.
That's it. The thing I'll mention just for the listeners is nominations for World Sailor of the Year have been called for now. So if I don't know who you think, you got any thoughts, Bryce?
Ooh. Yeah, no, I haven't had time to think about it.
Yeah,
That's a good
one on.
We should actually put that as a topic next week and have a solid discussion about it.
Oh, send us some thoughts. Like if you want to put a name forward, send us some thoughts at cheers@barkarati.com. I mean, you could get a $200 voucher just for throwing it down there, but something a bit wild and out there, but like genuine, like who you think has really done something. I'd love to see some names that we don't think of, like there's a few obvious that are going to jump out. I think, that will sort of we'd expect to see those, but I wouldn't mind seeing some names that we need to hear about that are doing some amazing sailing. I should mention on the Aussie boat, Nina Curtis is back after having a baby. She was on the boat this weekend, so well done. So obviously it's all down
baby that led to the little tip. Had the baby out, haven't given it a feed.
I don't know. Oh, too much fun. BP is going to be spewing. All right. I think that's us, my friend.
That's us. I'll be coming to you live next week from the Monaco Boat Show.
Wow.
So,
cool.
back on a plane Tuesday night. So, look out. If you are around, look me up, send us a message. If you're at Monaco, Saint-Tropez, any of those, and look forward to catching up, going global.
Beautiful. Excellent. All right. Another great week. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember,
thanks, BP, for all your input.
Yeah, thanks, BP. You haven't
really
made a mistake. Remember, if you want to jump onto the Radix Nutrition and really boost your performance and your health, radixnutrition.com or .com.au, depending on where you are. And then, of course, the code BARKARATI for your 10% discount, and the same for Vykobi, our great friends at Vykobi. If you're looking for some sailing gear, including harness and hiking pants, new quick release harness, just go to Vykobi, and again, same code BARKARATI, and you are good to go. 10% discount. Life is good.
I like it. See you, mate.
See you, buddy.
Farewell, listeners. Keep up the good work.